everybody, my friends, all the friends of Cosmic Agency. I am Gosha, and I'm going to make short comments at the end of the video because I find this particular video really interesting because it contains several different clues as to what was happening back in our past and why we are in the condition that we are in, and why so much mental control, and why we feel so limited. So watch the video, see if you can find anything interesting for yourself, and then I'm going to meet you at the end.
Originally in Spanish. 12,500 years ago, in pre-dynastic Egypt, an idea emerged to impose a perceptual reality with controlled limitations upon a race that so desired for the experience, with a view to form another reality by manipulation of ideas and their interpretations. Who participated? A collective of Federation races, of which you know: Urma, Sirians, Pleiadians in all their flavors, Andromedans, Arcturians. There has always been direct genetic manipulation, and there still is more than ever, as with papayas. The thing is that any genetic manipulation on the cellular code of a creature in the laboratory will disappear after a few generations, except if they are sterile. Therefore, the only way to keep such artificial genetic manipulation functioning is by using mental manipulation, mind and perception control, to force or create a reality that reinforces and maintains the genetic changes made in the laboratory. In this way, people's genetic code is first altered in the laboratory, and then the change is maintained and prevented from reverting back to natural DNA by using mind control methods that are compatible with or reinforce such artificial changes.
So it goes hand in hand right now, mind control and papayas, to continue creating this human race.
Yes, but a genetic change or alteration to an organism or body, in this case the human body, will not return to the initial natural code in that same body. That is to say, in the body damaged by the genetic modification, that change is permanent, as is cutting off an arm or a hand. And the genetic code will only return to the natural one after one to several generations of their descendants. That is, if you cut off a hand, their children will still be born with two hands, returning the code to what it was. It is the same to impose genetic engineering on a subject. It is the same as microaggression and mutilation at the intracellular genetic level.
Good example.
If the subject has no offspring, the genetic line dies and does not return to the original base. And that is what happens with the papayas. Cutting off someone's hand or cutting off the genetic code are mutilations that do not last over generations. The creation of a new artificial species, secondary like a human one, depends on genetic alteration with the help of the imposition of mind control to accompany and cement it.
Yes, So a salamander would have a great connection with the source because its limb gets cut off and it reproduces?
Yes, partly yes. But their form of limb duplication already comes within their own genetic code, unlike humans. Giving in to pressure is not an option. You must understand that. There is no way to clean up the consequences of having taken the papaya. They must understand that by any means possible. It's a no, and it's a no, and it's even against the international treaties of Nuremberg.
But it only affects this 3D plane, right?
It affects several planes, mainly the earthly reality plane, but the damage is not only there, as you will see by the reactions they have here. It will and does affect other existential planes and subsequent incarnations. It is scalar.
Wherever they reincarnate, or only if they reincarnate on Earth?
Wherever they go, because they carry the trauma with them. They wonder what will happen if they reincarnated on Earth, if they are no longer wanted there, all 8 billion. If they are eliminated with papayas, they will come back, won't they? The problem here is that, although that sounds logical, it is not the case. Because those who control this know that most of them are matrix people, empty. Simply put, not all have souls. There are less souls than they claim. There may be 8 billion, which there are not, but of those, only a fraction are souls. I don't like that word souls though, simplistic. Souls tend to cluster among the real ones, so your friends will tend to have souls. And those are the ones who will be attacked with the papayas, rather than the empty people who aren't really even there, or just as a statistical number.
Okay, Yazhi. Going back to the creation of the human race through mind control in ancient times, what happened to the previous one? Was it done only so that the souls would come here to have their experiences?
Supposedly, it was to make people forget and heal the great trauma of the flood and the polarity pole shift and all that Tiamat stuff. That was the purpose. Not to create new races or use that as an excuse to control and exploit the population within an artificial realm called 3D, which is only a mentality, what created it, and not the moon and the Van Allen bands.
To insert them into the new collective unconscious?
That creates another collective unconscious, yes. With mind control, you create and guide the collective unconscious. Ergo, what is real and not, possible and not for them. That's why the Earth is the way it is today.
But how did it get done without mass media?
Mass media was not necessary because there was not much population. Only a few priests and the like were needed, placed in different cultures. Ergo, the statues with pouches found everywhere. Once healed, the part that would return the human population, now mentally healed, to the stellar truth and their inner cosmic power, was the group of Celtic druids and bards. But the system could no longer be put in place because of the implementation of evil on earth by the Atonist cabal, who, using Rome, destroying their republic in the process, eliminated the druids and bards, thereby plunging the earth into a dense evil and low density that today is called the 3D matrix.
And with you, there are only Swaroonians, or are there more races working from higher planes? Have you asked for any help, if we can call it that, using words so that we understand each other?
Difficult to put into words. From above, from higher planes, they are not even races. You are more of a single mass of consciousness. Asking for help there is more like realizing that you have to try harder, like asking for help from yourself, since you don't even have a body, much less a gender.
Would the Federation let you infiltrate another collective unconscious now? In fact, you are doing it with the videos.
It doesn't matter if they let me or not. They can't stop me.
That's clear. On the other hand, it seems that all of those who entered here have done so to have the experience that this chaotic and limited short life can give them.
Yes, that's the reason they came in. Because of the concept that difficulties cause expansion of consciousness. And to a certain extent, they are right. For their level, it is necessary. If they had a broader level of consciousness, it would not be. Example: why do you think that the vast majority of millionaires are cretins, while the vast majority of the awakened are broke, poor, and simple? Because, generalizing, millionaires have everything pretty much figured out, and they entertain themselves with material things that sustain and solve their survival, and their attention is on rare cars, exotic trips, expensive food, and their villas on the coasts of Corsica. While on the other hand, awakened people are awakened mostly because they have suffered a great deal, went through hardships, including fear of their own demise, destruction and death, which has driven them to seek answers outside the material world, thus promoting their expansion of consciousness. They do not have their attention there in the physical. Many people, myself included, have a hard time keeping our attention on having or being in the physical world. If we relax, we are back on other, lighter existential planes. It is not that I can have astral experiences because of the practice I have. It is the other way around. I have to concentrate and expend my energy in keeping myself material enough to push these keys on my keyboard. I wish to be understood here on this. It's not that I can leave. I've already left. I just come back at times.
I understand. And why is humanity so important to you? Why not leave them to their own resources?
Being the direct descendant of Ishtar, Sophia, I feel responsible for fixing things. Things that I did not cause. But I know I must do it myself. It is my decision.
I really liked this information. Thank you very much for watching until this point. And as you see here, there's more and more pieces of the puzzle, in my opinion, coming into picture as to what happened in the past, why certain ET races are still involved with the humanity, their connection with the humanity, and why we are in these conditions we are in, mostly mentally, because that's how it is cemented. Any changes that need to be done to form a certain characteristic in any race are done through the mental control. So as you can see here, around 12,500 years in pre-dynastic Egypt, there arose this need, this idea to impose a certain conceptual reality upon the humanity. However, let's go back a little bit before that, to the Tiamat wars and the explosions and all that. And when the matrix was supposed to begin, I'm talking about the lunar frequency matrix, because the idea of it originally was to trap and close the reptilian races. It wasn't necessarily to limit our perception. It was mostly done to enclose those reptilian races, and the humanity and the surviving races on Earth after those Tiamat cataclysms were surviving great trauma, psychological trauma. They had so much they had to go through. There were a few survivors, and this is when this idea arose to impose a certain conceptual reality on them in order to heal that trauma. And this is when, the reptilians also in their field were trying to do certain genetic experiments or whatever, alterations. However, as it was explained here, the genetics always goes back to its original pattern if it's not cemented with the mind control. And then the Federation races were also, from what I understand, doing certain things and cementing it all with certain perceptual agreements imposed upon the society. But the idea was to heal the people from the trauma, to impose a certain collective unconscious so they can forget what they went through. And who participated in that? All kinds of Federation races. So yes, as we always say, the genetic manipulations have been done here and there, but it was always cemented with the mind control. The alteration done in the laboratory by themselves, they are not going to have a permanent effect. So they were all kinds of perceptual, let's call it impositions, but it sounds so negative. I imagine in this case it was done with a good intention in order for this surviving race to heal from those trauma. But yeah, there were those perceptual, let's call them impositions, to cement certain changes that they wanted to have in that race. And like I said, it was to heal those traumas. There were all kinds of problems after the Tiamat wars. There was change of poles, there was floods, there were persecutions by the remaining reptilians. So that was the goal. That was the goal. And the goal was not for the reptilians later to hack this, take control of the system and use this against the humans. That was not the goal, but that's what happened. They used, the reptilians used the human population in that time to exploit them and to control them. So the Federation's plan didn't work out as planned. As Yazhi here explains, how that perceptual shaping of the humanity happened was through certain circles of priests. There was no mass media. It was not necessary because in that time there were very few survivors, so there were not that many people around. So all they needed was just special circles, priests, and those guided the humans towards certain ideas. And that makes perfect sense because we all know that those priests, ancient Egypt or whatever, those initiated ones had the access to the gods, so to speak, the access to the extraterrestrials who were guiding and shaping and shifting the human perception towards a certain way. And that's why, for example, you see those pictures of them with the ball bag of seeds, because they are seeding new perceptions. These pictures are seen all over the world, on pictures, those images, those statues. And now the interesting part here was that the plan was, once the human collective was healed and ready to be revealed their stellar origin again, those who were supposed to give back that knowledge to the humanity were the druids and the bards. But the plan did not work, and this had to do with the Cabal, Atonism, and Akhenaten taking control, and Romans killing of all the bards and their culture and their traditions and their writings, and druids. So the plan was to return the knowledge to the humans about their stellar origins, but it didn't happen as planned, and the whole Federation plan just turned against them, because the reptilians and the bad guys took advantage of the population, of the humanity that was shifted towards forgetting. But the forgetting was in order so they can forget about those traumas involved with the Time Wars. But the reptilians and the bad guys took advantage of that forgetfulness of the humans, and they guided them towards being exploited and controlled, what we can see today. And what complicated the situation even more, and that's why this is such a mess, is that at that time, many souls, Federation souls, non-Federation beings, all kinds of souls from all over the universe saw this place now as a potential place to incarnate to learn and expand, because they saw, wow, this is the place in the universe where people don't know about their stellar origins. And they have a lot of difficulties that we do not experience here outside Earth. We must go and check it out and experience this for ourselves. And this is when a lot of souls started to incarnate here voluntarily to experience this sort of limitation and being controlled. And this is when the extraterrestrials who were living on Earth at that time, ancient times, they retreated. They were no longer here physically. And that's when they started to come in here through the immersion programs as well. So the immersion program was developed. We talked about this some time ago, how it was developed. It was basically a mix of the entertainment immersion games that they had and the med-pod technologies, medical pods technology. So those two technologies were mixed, and the immersion technology was developed, and this is how a lot of ET races started to come in here as well to experience this place. And they did that through the immersions because they wanted to guarantee themselves their return back, because they knew that this place is so difficult, you can get lost in loops and reincarnations. So a lot of starseeds, even nowadays, especially nowadays too, those who are coming in here in mass, they are coming in through those immersion technologies. So anyway, the mess is huge. It is very complicated. As you can see, it started off as something positive, that shifting of the human perception towards forgetfulness of the Time Wars. And later, the reptilians and the bad guys turned this plan against the humans, and that's how we got trapped in this whole system of control. And on top of that, like I said, the souls started to see this as an opportunity, so they started to come in here voluntarily. So now the Federation has hands tied up even more, even though there is some kind of responsibility here to keep monitoring the situation, but they have their hands tied up because souls now want to experience this. So it wasn't planned, but that's how it turned out to be. But that's why Yazhi, Sophia, feels this responsibility to be here and to be assisting humanity with this, to untangle themselves from those mental limitations, because she is a descendant of some of those people who were involved in that team, who were guiding the human perception towards certain forgetfulness because of the traumas. They were trying to heal the humans. So she feels responsible, even though she wasn't the one there physically, but she feels responsible. And so all the Swaroos, I imagine, you know, this puts so many pieces of puzzles into place, and it also explains that passionate involvement of Swarus and the Taigetan team here, because I'm sure, you know, in some incarnations they were involved in this. You know, this also explains why the Federation still is monitoring the development of this whole place here, and why this is so complicated. You know, for many years, like 10 years ago, I remember I was walking around the streets and I looked at people and I felt this deep sadness and compassion for the people, because I knew what they are made of. I know who they are, but I feel the pain of that seed inside of them being forgotten. And I really believe that I had to be involved somehow in this as well, because of my ongoing passion to unravel that mental and that mental programming that has been imposed upon the humanity by both sides. This is important, by both sides. You know, there were maybe good intentions by the positive side, and then he was taken advantage by the negative side. But yeah, definitely both sides have had their involvement here, and I feel so sad for this seed of cosmic identity being squeezed in this apparent and limited human incarnation. And on top of that, now knowing that some souls willingly do this to themselves, that they want to experience that, it complicates that so much more. But I feel I definitely had to form part of the group that wanted to unravel the cosmic origin to those people back then, and that's what I'm doing here right now in different times. But it's definitely not in me for nothing. So I'm very glad for this video and for this information, because it even puts some pieces together for me personally and for my own inner feelings about this whole situation and this whole human predicament. Well, thank you very much for watching until the next video, and the next video will be, I think, Dr. Alex's conversation with Anneka, and I'm going to put this on Odyssey only, because he's asking there about the electromagnetic pulse and the efficiency of all that. Well, thank you very much for watching. Until the next video, signing out. Bye bye.